Hi, this is Katie Sweetman, and this is the astrology of April 6th through 12th, 2020. I'm a psychic medium and an astrologer here in Brooklyn, New York, and every week we gather to look at the astrology of what is going on, but also look at the bigger picture. What is this astrology teaching us? What is it trying to open up? And what is it trying to get us to change in our lives? And certainly we are in interesting times. Just as a recap for, I'm a little bit late with my live feed today because I was doing a meditation at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And, we've been doing this for about 3 weeks right now. And at this point, we're kind of getting people coming together and we're like meditating at the same time. And we're starting to like get into the rhythm of things. And it's very beautiful. And we're in this larger period of time where we need community. We need connection. It just so happens that we're having to do it virtually right now because of whether you are in quarantine or if your movement is restricted. So these connections that we're doing weekly is more important than ever. If you're on the live call, please say hello and tell me where you're connecting from. Again, I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. Things are a little interesting in New York City right now, but I know a bunch of you have reached out to see how I'm doing, and I am safe. I am well. Thank you very much for those small miracles. So I hope that you are staying safe at this time. Judy was on the meditation earlier. Yes, it was a wonderful meditation. It's something that we do, coming together. We're able to focus. We get rooted and grounded and centered ourselves, but focus our attention into the world and help open up the energy during this time, because there's a lot of, let's say, fear going on. But that said, what's going on with the astrology this week? If you've been watching my live broadcast, whether you've been watching it here on Facebook, I'm also on YouTube, I'm also on IGTV. I actually started putting this on Spotify too. So if you just want to listen to the audio, you can go to Spotify and search Empowering Astrology, and you can follow this along on your device. So what I've been saying for a while now is that there's just been a lot of things going on in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is about the world and sort of like these bigger structures. And we had these eclipses back in December and January, and things were sort of like set in motion at that time. And then here came Mars, and Mars came into Capricorn in the middle of February, going through March, and it sort of activated all these points in Capricorn. So we started to see the world heat up. We started to see events heat up. And something I was saying at the beginning of this year, and maybe it was a little bit not controversial, but I was calling it the wrecking ball. We had these two planets come together in the sky, Saturn and Pluto, and they don't do that very often. In fact, the last time they did it was in 1982, when the last time they were together in Capricorn, actually, FYI. I think that was like the 1517, 1518. I mean, that's, we're talking like big cycles of time here. But we just knew that going into 2020, something was going to have to shift. Something was going to have to tear down so that something new could be built. So I'm mentioning this because I want to make sure that we have this bigger picture of what's going on, because this week we have a full moon tomorrow. We have a full moon in Libra. It's at 18 degrees of Libra at 10:36 p.m. Eastern here in New York City. And that full moon is making some pretty challenging aspects to both Jupiter and Pluto. They're making what's called a square. At the same time, we have something called Mars square Uranus. So this is not to make you concerned or fearful, but to really understand that this is, again, one of those points, one of those push points where we have to transform again. So if you're seeing some ripples or some echoes from earlier this year, or if you're seeing from things that were happening in March, like here we are again. Full moons in general, they can be a bit confrontational. If you think about it, the moon is full, the light is the most visible. It's you can't miss it, especially when it's kind of rising large in the east. So this full moon, it's even more confrontational. We've got the sun in Aries, which is about the self, the I, and we have the moon in Libra tomorrow, which is about other people, relationships, socialization, and connection. So this full moon is really putting the spotlight on our relationships and how we connect with people. You might not be a Libra. You might not even be in a relationship, but we're all human beings. We have some form of relationship. So really looking at how you socialize and connect with people. This full moon is putting it in the spotlight. Something has to shift. And this is with the kind of the Jupiter Pluto energies, with the Mars square Uranus. We need to open up to something better. So don't be surprised if something with a relationship kind of gets activated, it kind of heats up this week. We might feel like we're at a crossroads. We might feel like we're at a turning point with a relationship. It's neither good or bad, but just a turning point. And we might, depending on where the Libra part of our chart is, we might see some shifts. We might need to take action. The sun, when the sun is in Aries, is very action oriented. It's almost like there's no rest. When we were in Pisces season, it was about rest, and now we're in Aries season, which is about new beginnings, taking action, which is ironic because we're at home right now. At least most of us are at home. I've pretty much been at home 3 weeks and counting. So how do we take action during this time? We might be feeling very restless. So do your self-care at this time if you can. I don't know how many of you are, let's say, at home with family or by yourself, but this full moon, you might need some extra care. It might feel emotional as well. I'm just going to quickly go around the zodiacs. You kind of know roughly what area is being highlighted. And I just saw that Judy has her natal moon at 18 degrees of Libra. I have my Pluto at 18 degrees of Libra. I have this full moon on my Pluto. Awesome. Great. But yeah, it just means that, if you have a planet at that degree or quite close, that the energy of that planet is getting activated. So if it's Pluto, if you're born in the 1970s, like I am, late 70s, you've got your Pluto nearby. So that you're really doing your shadow work right now. Just a little FYI. So let's just quickly go around the zodiac so you know what part of your life is being activated right now. Aries. Happy birthday, Aries. So Libra is your relationship sign. So this full moon in particular is very much about other people, relationships, connection. You've just had a birthday or you're going to have a birthday. So this is a time to naturally reach out to people. People are reaching out to you. It tends to be a busy time around a birthday. If you are in a relationship, and this also includes Aries rising, by the way, sun and rising, it might be a time when you have to really take action with a relationship. And there might be this kind of sense of being at a crossroads, needing to make some shifts and some change. If you're a Taurus, this full moon is about, gotta go one over. This full moon is about health, how you take care of your body, how you eat, how you nourish yourself, let's say how you organize your day, your rituals, your practice, your projects. So this is the part, you need to take action with your health. And if you're in confinement, how do you keep active? Is it some sort of online video, or if you have some outdoor space and it's kind of reasonable and safe to do so, like maybe you're taking action, you're walking outside. Gemini, this is the part of your chart that talks about, wait, I feel like my math is off. Let me just quickly do my math. It's like I have to see a chart. You know, guys, like sometimes my brain like fails me. Um Aries, Libra, Scorpio. Yeah, I'm doing it right. Okay. We keep moving. So if you are a Gemini, this part of your chart talks about yourself, how you express who you are, how you create your persona and your identity. So this full moon really puts something about you in the spotlight. Maybe it's a time when you're feeling very creative. Maybe you are really focusing on this urge to, like some sort of creative project at this time, some sort of creative initiative. Um, so what's going on? Yeah, why do I feel like my math is off, guys? Hang on. Pause for a moment. Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, Scorpio. Yeah. Why do I feel like my math is off? Sorry, guys. I'm having like my Mercury is on my south node right now. Um, we were moving on to Gemini, Sag fifth. This, yeah, feels off. Sorry, guys. I need like yeah, brain fog. It's like we're having it's electronic energy. If you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to use an aid. So hold, please. Yeah, and this full moon's on my midheaven too. Yeah, I probably had the math correct, but yeah, I guess it's like brain fog right now. There's a lot going on in the world, but let's move on to Cancer. This is the part of your chart that talks about home and family. So this full moon is really putting the spotlight on your foundation, where you live, how you kind of make your home, what makes you feel safe and secure. Sort of this like deeper work that you're doing, because I had a client today and she was Cancer rising. We're talking about this full moon and I was like, what's going on with home and family? But really what the thing that was going on was that this was about having to do a lot of emotional excavation at this time. So maybe this full moon is really highlighting something deep within, because this is the part of the chart that it's very private. The people that only are in this part of your chart are like your family or your inner circle. So it's highlighting something deep within yourself, this need to be fed and cared and nurtured. So this is a full moon where you might be feeling things about the past. You might feel like you're at a crossroads with something, even with relationships as well, because you still have these pretty heavy planets in your relationship sign of Cancer, so of Capricorn. So moving on to Leo. So this is the part of your chart that has to do with voice. So how do you express your voice? How do you think? How do you learn? How do you communicate? So this full moon is really highlighting something about your mind. It's highlighting information. Maybe you're needing to make a decision. that might be hard to make any hard and fast decisions while in confinement, but maybe something is coming up for you. Maybe, we're in this huge time out right now. And something that Spirit's been saying to me is how sort of sacred this time is. It's not to make light of some of the things that are happening and some of the suffering that's happening, but because we're having to be still, we're maybe seeing things that we wouldn't normally see. So, if you are having to make these decisions, Leo, you're one of those signs right now that's in this bigger shift and needing to reinvent some part of your life. And in this case, it's direction and career. So maybe this is the full moon that's really bringing things into perspective. If you are a Virgo, so this is the part of your chart that talks about money, how you earn it, how you spend it, how you value it. So this full moon is putting your material life in the spotlight. So you might need to make some decisions in how you earn a living, what you value. Maybe there's some questions around spending right now. With everything that's going on in the world right now, you might feel your kind of personal tectonic plates are shaking a little bit, Virgo. So how do you get grounded? How do you feel safe and stable, especially with the Aries sun going through what's called your 8th house, really getting to the deep heart of some of the things in your life right now? I mean, that's what Aries season is for you, Virgo. So really making sure that you kind of face your fears at this time, face your insecurities, and really find that rooted and groundedness right now. If you are a Libra, so this is a full moon that's putting you in the spotlight. So this is a time when maybe you're making some decisions. You're like, it's about a new beginning or going off in a new direction. Usually when we have a full moon in our sign, we are highlighted in some way. We are visible in some way. And of course, this is going to be different for every Libras, but pay attention to what's coming up at this time. Pay attention to how you are in the spotlight, or you are being confronted by certain energies and having to take action, having to go off in a different direction. If you're a Scorpio, if you're a Scorpio, this is the part of your chart that talks about the hidden parts of you, spirituality, needing to go behind the scenes. It's a full moon to let something go. Maybe something that you've been holding on to. I mean, you're in a time, Scorpio, where, because Aries is what's called your health and wellness sign. Health and healing is not just a physical thing. So this is a full moon to really shed addictions, to shed bad habits, to really see the dynamic between physical health and emotional, spiritual, and even what's going on in the unconscious and how it's all connected. This is a full moon to really dig deep into your soul. The full moon is really illuminating that inner awareness and that inner truth. And this is what's called the 12th house. And I always say that the 12th house is a place where we have to find our own answers. There are these subjective answers. These are not answers that we get in a book, because we have to sit still and we have to feel them. And certainly if you are in confinement, that's a perfect time to find them. If you're Sagittarius, this is the part of your chart that talks about groups, community, your friends, and of course it's about socializing in general, which is a little difficult right now. So maybe you are needing to take another look at your friendships, the people that you're connected with, the groups, the allies that are part of your life, and maybe you're at a crossroads in some point. And it's interesting that this is like a time that's about socialization, but we're having to do it virtually right now. So how are you making time for friends, and how do you have to step up and deal with a friend or deal with some friendships? So this full moon is really putting a spotlight on your friendships. Moving on to after Sagittarius is Capricorn. This full moon is putting career in the spotlight, but also not just career, your public life, your professional life, your direction, and your ambition. So this is a full moon where you might be kind of public in some way. You're having to make a decision about your direction or your career. I mean, certainly there's a lot going on in the world. Like where are things going? Like what still matters? So there might be a need to kind of get some new perspective. I mean, that's the thing with this full moon. Venus is now in Gemini. So with Gemini, we have to weigh our options. We have to see things from a new perspective. We have to get new information. And this is the case for all the signs, that this is something that's presenting itself over the next few days. How do we see something that we don't normally see? And this might be a time of it's a natural time to change jobs, by the way, Capricorn. Like, I don't know how that really translates right now because there's just so much of a question mark going on in the world, but just FYI. If you're an Aquarius, this is the part of your chart that talks about higher education, travel, although maybe virtual travel at this point, and needing to sort of figure out your truth. I mean, this part of your chart talks about worldview. It talks about the ideas and the beliefs that shape how you see the world and how you see yourself in the world. So there's a need with this full moon to really kind of search and to figure out what you believe in, what your truth is. Maybe you're making some decisions about your future with education. This is a part of the chart that does talk about education. If we were in normal times, I would say this is a time when maybe you're thinking about making a big trip, but that's a little difficult at the moment. So really maybe nourish that need to see the world in other ways, whether it's videos and other media. Lastly, Pisces. So this is the part of your chart that talks about needing to go deep within and face yourself. So this is the part of the chart that we all have to go through it at some point during the 12 months of the zodiac calendar. We have to face ourselves. We have to face the deepest parts of ourselves. So this could mean that you're doing some shadow work with this full moon. You're looking at your fears, you're looking at your insecurities, maybe something is coming up, you feel vulnerable. It's something about intimacy. So I don't know, every Pisces, of course, is different. And certainly you're all dealing with the virus and confinement differently. So really take some time to search yourself. And if something is bubbling up emotionally, maybe you're discovering the source. What is it really? So as I said, you sort of go, Libra for you is this place where you have to travel in order to discover yourself on a deeper level so you can reemerge. It happens to all of us every month in the zodiac calendar. We have to kind of go through this space. But that said, it's a confrontational full moon. Really make sure you're taking care of yourself. Again, Venus is in Gemini. Weigh your options. Check and see if you're getting the right information. Trust your intuition, or do you feel that the information you're getting is a bit cloudy? Another thing with this full moon, and maybe this is just what I'm feeling as a Scorpio, is Mars is square Uranus. Like, things are shaking up. Uranus is the great awakener. Uranus wants us to get out of our comfort zone. So there's something about this full moon that's really kind of pushing at us. It's really shaking us up. And, again, this is all happening hopefully from the safety of your home. So if you are leaving your home, or even if you are in your home, don't rush. Mars square Uranus is not an aspect to rush. It can be rash, it can be impulsive, but it can also help you do things differently if you let it. So really trying to work with these energies and consciousness so that you can see things with new vision, with new eyes. I'm just checking on the chat. Let me know where you are calling, writing, viewing from. We do have an international audience, so we are all dealing with this differently. Another thing that's happening this week is Mercury finally goes into Aries. It goes into Aries on April 11th. It's been in Pisces for the better part of 2 months. So you may or may not remember, but Mercury went into Pisces on February 3rd. And apart from like a couple of weeks in the beginning of March when it went back, it retrograded back into Aquarius, a sign that it kind of does a little bit better in. It's been in Pisces for the past couple of months. And Mercury in Pisces, it's great for art and music. It's great for dance. It's great for poetry and daydreaming and meditation. But what it's not great for is getting clear communication. So really make sure you are double checking information this week. But once Mercury goes into Aries, I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen, because Mercury, when it goes into Aries, Aries is a fire sign. We want to take action. The words that we're using, they're quick. They can maybe be a little too quick. They can be brusque. Our minds are sharper. We're driven more by action than we are about intuition when Mercury is in Pisces. We might see some forward movement in the world. I'm not sure what that's going to be like, but Mercury has sort of been like, things haven't quite been able to fully move forward with Mercury and Aries, or Mercury and Pisces. And I was telling people, like, and I'm not what's called a mundane astrologer. So the mundane astrology is where you study the cycles of time, you study the cycles of planets and history. And so my feeling about the virus is, best case scenario astrologically, at least we start to see a shift in May, because the nodes start to change in May. Second base scenario is the end of June, when Mars goes into Aries on June, I think it's the 27th. But like, worst case scenario is like, this is something that's with us until the end of the year, by the time that Mars gets out of Aries at the end of 2020 and Saturn gets out of Capricorn at the end of 2020. So I really hope that it's not that, but I want you all to stay safe. Judy's asking about full moon and COVID. I'm again, not a mundane astrologer, but there's something that's going to be potentially revealing about this time. So there might be some new trends, but there might be something that kind of comes up. I think the most important thing is that you all are safe at home, taking care of yourselves, taking care of your loved ones. And we're not sort of rushing or getting impatient with that kind of Mars square Uranus energy. And I said this on previous Facebook Lives, and I certainly have written about this. The north node of the moon is in Cancer. We are all collectively being pointed towards Cancer right now. Home, family, it's like our guiding star. Now we're all home. There's a yeast shortage in the world because we're having to make our own bread. We're having to feed ourselves and nourish ourselves in ways that we haven't had to. Live in New York City, the land of takeout, but New Yorkers are having to stay in. We're having to cook for ourselves. So it's a very interesting expression of having this north node in Cancer right now. But in May, the node's going to switch. It's going to go towards Gemini. So kind of our collective compass is going to start to shift towards Gemini, movement, ideas, information. This is why I was like, best case scenario, we start to see some shifts in May. But my intuition is that it's not going to be that soon. But fingers crossed. That's pretty much the astrology this week. I do want to talk a little bit about, I'm doing a summit, and it's a free summit. So if you're stuck at home and you need some astrological wisdom and knowledge, there's a summit called the Astrology Awakening, and it's happening on Friday, the 10th of April, the 11th, and the 12th. And I'm speaking on April 11th at 12 Eastern, and I'm speaking on Chiron. And if you've been following my work, you know that Chiron is a planet that is kind of near and dear to my heart, as if one could say that about Chiron, because Chiron does talk about pain points, these deeper spiritual pain points in the chart. And Chiron, somebody just said cooking in a New York City apartment kitchen. I have a big New York City apartment kitchen. It's like I'm lucky. It's not like a I'm in like what's called a post-war 1950s building. But anyway, Chiron is this pain point in our chart, and something that when we work on that pain point, when we work on what I call the knot, it's not a wound, it's a knot, it opens up. Our chart is able to expand. So I'm calling this this talk Chiron and Consciousness Unlocking the Chart. And you know that Chiron, or you may not know, is the symbol of a key. And so I think that when you really work with your Chiron in consciousness, when you really kind of sit with these deeper pain points, when you look at your wounds, quote unquote, obviously there's a better word for it, and you sort of transcend the personal story and you bring in the energy of consciousness, it allows your chart to expand and to grow. And the chart is like a house. Your birth chart, the moment that you're born, creates a chart, and it's like a house that you live in for your whole life. But that your experience in that house can be very confined, no pun intended. It can be very narrow, or we can start to expand and to explore and to get into these different spaces in the chart. So, that's what I'm talking about. It's, this idea of like, how can we use Chiron? And of course, there's other planets that can help with this, but to awaken. Maybe that's my way of using these really intense energies right now is how do I be of service right now? How do I teach people to open up to themselves using astrology as a tool? So I'll be speaking on Saturday. The link is in the show notes. And you can register to watch it live for free. Of course, if you want to buy the recordings, that's another thing, but you can all join me live. And I'm really excited to be talking about Chiron because it's something that is, I think, a feature of the work that I do. That's certainly a feature of the client work that I do. I'm just checking in on the comments. I'm seeing some familiar faces. Hello from Minnesota. Hello from New Zealand. We don't get a lot of people from New Zealand unless, if you are, great, like say hi, because I don't usually see you all kind of waving hi. But yeah, I think like Facebook changed the interface of the live. So like, I'm like, oh man, I'm like trying to learn something on the fly as I talk to you all. But that's the astrology of this week. Those are the bigger points to keep in mind. Mercury is square the nodes this week as well. So I just think there's something about this week that's a turning point. We're going to have to see how it manifests. But I think the most important thing is that we're all taking care of ourselves, that we're safe. Hopefully we're in connection with loved ones. So on that note, please take care of yourself. Register to watch my live talk. The link is in the show notes. I'm still doing these daily meditations at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's what I was doing before this. I think it's really great when we can all come together and focus our attentions towards something at this time. So yeah, stay safe. I look forward to connecting with you a later time. Follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook, of course. I'm on Twitter as well. I have signed up for my newsletter, and I also do one-on-one consultations. So have a wonderful week, and I will connect with you next week. Bye.